In this video, I want to talk about 5 mistakes that can get you fired as a software engineer. And the number one is missing accessibility requirements. Accessibility is making your app usable by many groups of people, no matter their age, eyesight, health situation, and so on. Many countries requires accessibility by law, which means that if your app is targeting some specific country, then you have to comply with that country's accessibility law. If you don't comply with that, then it means that your company will get fined and you will be fired for that. To avoid this situation like that, you should always utilize the accessibility tools that UI frameworks offer, and at least you can always set content description as known as alternative text. You can make sure that your app works with voiceover tools, and also you can make sure that at least your app has good color contrast. To make things more easier, you should always check the documentation of the platforms that you are developing for, and also the requirements by the law. The second thing that can get you fired as a software engineer is transferring users' data without their consent or permission. Oftentimes we use third-party libraries for analytics purposes or many other purposes really. And the thing is that those libraries on the background may be collecting users' data, and you need to at least ask the user's consent for it. If you don't ask user consent, you may face a big fine because of laws like GDPR, California Data Act, and so on. It means that whenever you're collecting the data of users, you should make sure to get their consent, make them get acquainted what kind of data you are collecting, and also make sure that they can retrieve or delete the data that you collected. If you don't comply with those rules, it means that your company may get fined, and then again you will be fired for that. So make sure to always comply with the data collection laws as well. And the third thing that can get you fired as a software engineer is not complying with the security rules. When we create our apps, we often store data somewhere or transfer it to some servers. But when storing the data, we should make sure that it's stored both locally and remotely in a secure manner. And for example, things like encryptions are properly implemented, there's good authentication, and so on. If you don't comply with the basic security requirements, it means that one day some hackers may get into your system and cause a data leakage, and that in itself will cause your company to get a fine and even get sued by customers. To avoid that, you should check requirements like OWASP Top 10 and make sure that your app is complying to the latest security requirements and can be defended against security vulnerabilities. But that's not it yet. There's fourth thing that can get you fired, and probably if you're working in a big company, that's not going to happen to you. But if you're working in a small company and you have access rights to production environments, then you should never make a change directly to the production environment. It means that whenever you create a new feature or make some code changes, you should always deploy it to the test environment first and make sure it's well tested by your testers and approved by your product managers. Deploying something directly to production environment is not fun and can cause a security vulnerability, and that may definitely get you fired. To prevent that, you should create some kind of test or staging environment for your changes, and make sure that you always test the things before deploying it to production environment. And also you should have approval from managers so that you don't by mistake reveal some new feature. And the fifth thing that can get you fired as a software engineer is not staying up to date. You see, all the previous points that I mentioned already are related to staying up to date, making sure that you know the security requirements by law, accessibility stuff, and so on. And that's why you should always try to keep learning and check what's new in the industry. If you don't stay up to date, it means one day someone will take your job because you are not up to date enough to handle complex situations. So make sure always to stay up to date, learn new things, and develop the greatest products there is. That's all I wanted to share in this video, and see you in the next video.